We've seen it happen plenty of times. A game gets excessively hyped up, people play it for about a week, and then it goes away, never to be seen from again. And a lot of people were thinking this would be the case for Battlebit, especially those who couldn't quite get over the visual appearance of the game. Now, it hasn't been out for long, but I think it's fair to say at this point that this game has got legs, and it's definitely exceeded at least my expectations so far. The last video I did, I was talking about their astonishing achievement of reaching over 50,000 concurrent players, and since then they've peaked at over 80,000 concurrent players. 80,000! They were the best selling game on Steam upon release, and it's just such a great achievement, and I am really happy for the developers. As far as I can tell, there's been no indication of them seeing this as job done and downing tools. They've been emphasizing their desire to keep improving, expanding and polishing the Battlebit experience regardless of its level of popularity. And to be honest, that's an amazing way to approach most projects you're interested in. It certainly rings true for creating YouTube videos, so I'm really liking their approach to all of this. They don't seem to be getting carried away by the success at all, and also the way they've been communicating with the community is fantastic. If you're checking their community updates or if you follow them on Twitter, you'll see how readily they take on feedback and provide information on reported issues. I do want to take a moment to talk about some of the challenges they're facing, especially considering they're such a small team. And they're challenges which make me appreciate the state of the game even more, because they must be taking up a lot of time and the things that I didn't really think about, to be honest. So they provided a debrief of the release and how things are going so far, stating that the first week was largely smooth and they were able to implement quality of life improvements as well as new content. For the second week, and I'm quoting here, a determined group of individuals who previously failed to take down our servers found a weak point in our firewall and started attacking servers. They also started DDoSing servers that content creators were in to inflict as much damage to Battlebit's reputation as possible. Needless to say, this affected their development as they had to focus on collecting and analysing the attack data before fixing the flaw in their firewall. They also didn't want to publicly announce this issue at the time, as it would alert other would-be attackers to the flaw. Thankfully, they were able to fix the issue relatively quickly, but it just goes to show what this tiny team is dealing with alongside with the actual development of the game. I thought their future plans, which they also mentioned in this community update, were pretty interesting as well. They're continuing with the bug fixing, adding quality of life improvements as to be expected, but they're also recruiting a team that specialises in detecting cheats and weeding out possible cheaters. If you've been playing Battlebit recently, you'll have noticed the sheer quantity of cheaters getting banned from the message list at the top right corner of the screen. One of the great things about Battlebit is how cheap it is, but that unfortunately does mean that it's less punishing for people who get banned because they can easily buy a new game. It's not much of a deterrent, the price. And as we all know, hackers can completely ruin games. I haven't had that happen yet to me on Battlebit, but I'm glad they're trying to nip it in the bud and get ahead of the cheating curve as much as possible. Hacks, tragically though, are a massive industry, so it's always going to be hard to match the resources in order to counter them. The big thing I'm really looking forward to that's going to be coming up that they mentioned in their update as well is community servers, not only for the community atmosphere as the name would suggest, but also for the ability to find servers which play the game modes that I'm interested in. Oh, they are also introducing some new game modes, so I thought I should add that in. There is a bit of conflict at the moment, I think, between players who want to play Frontline versus Conquest and vice versa. So servers that dedicate themselves to one or the other, I think, will be a nice solution for a lot of people. I also can't wait to see more than the 5 maps that keep getting voted for. Call me a dictator, but I've never been a fan of map voting. For me, it's a surefire way for me to get tired of the best maps. I really do like having the variety which map rotations provide. You'll also be able to tweak game mode rules based on the admin's preference, which is something that I love. Feels like a real old school move these days, but I always liked back in the day finding a server that tweaked the game the way I liked it, and then I'd stick with that server for a long period of time. I remember Bad Company 2. I enjoyed playing hardcore Bad Company 2, but snipers were way too overpowered in hardcore mode. So I'd always join the servers where there was a bit of a restriction on the number of snipers. And bringing that back to Battlebit, I can't be the only one thinking that medics having C4 makes them way too overpowered. So if there was a server that tweaked that and just changed it and balanced out the classes a bit more, I'd be happy to go for that. It allows us as the community to make these little changes while developers can deal with big issues like DDoS attacks and all that malarkey. Finally, before getting into some gameplay, I want to point out some areas that I'd like to be looked at. Knowing how well the Battlebit team engaged with the community, they've probably already addressed most of these issues, but I'll go through them anyway, starting with one which I know they're aware of, being forced to see friendly player icons at all distances. The HUD at the moment is way too busy for me, especially with the 254 player servers. It's very hard to get an idea of where your teammates actually are and where the enemy might be coming from, as well as just being distracting seeing all those blue Doritos above the friendlies' heads. I'd like squads as well to be unlocked by default, and also more emphasis on squad communication. Battlebit's proximity chat has received a lot of attention because it is especially funny, but people rarely, in my experience, use the squad chat, which is a shame because it does make the game a lot more enjoyable, in my opinion. There definitely needs to be more encouragement for squad leaders to place down rally points as well, and potentially just have some more hints in the game reminding people of the importance of squad chat, and also reminding leaders to put down rally points. Potentially have the squad chat key as bound but to C or something by default, which I find a lot more accessible. And talking of rally points, I would love to see them as well in the frontline game mode. That's probably my biggest gripe with that mode at the moment, is having to act as a kind of pseudo spawn beacon by staying alive and hiding on the flank rather than actually getting into some fights. Slightly smaller point, but I also don't think that you should die from bleeding out once you start bandaging. It is absolutely infuriating when that happens. So there's just some improvements I've rattled off the top of my head. I'm sure I've missed out a bunch. I'd love to hear what you guys think should be changed or added or whatever, and what you think of what I've mentioned so far. I've not mentioned anything too big. There's nothing really game breaking at the moment. It's just kind of quality of life improvements, and the turnaround time is so quick that by the time this video comes out, they might have actually addressed some of these changes anyway. One last thing I'll say is that although the game's low poly and will obviously stay low poly, there are some things they're working on to improve its appearance. For example, an upcoming update, I know they're making improvements to environmental clarity and navigation via shader changes, which I thought was pretty interesting and will just help tackle that visual barrier for entry. So just to finish this video up, I think it's a bit too long now for a bit of gameplay at the end, which I usually like to end these videos with, so I'll wrap it up instead. It is still very early days, but hopefully it looks like Battlebit has got the fundamentals required for longevity. I've been bemoaning for the longest time the fact that Battlefield is the only Battlefield style game out there. So fans who turned away from 2042 didn't really have anywhere to go. I remember when the World War III game was getting a lot of attention, everyone was trying to say it's the new Battlefield, when really it was much more similar. If you've played it, you'll know it's much more similar to a Call of Duty style game, but because everyone's so desperate for another Battlefield style game, we had nothing at that stage. Everyone was shoehorning these different little games into that category, whereas now we've actually got a genuine competitor, and obviously it had to be low poly in order for 3 people to make it and develop it. And while I and clearly 80,000 other people don't have too much of a problem with that, just imagine if it had the graphics even of a Battlefield 3 style game. I mean, the numbers would be through the roof. But maybe then they wouldn't be able to work with it so dynamically and make such quick changes and updates whilst listening so closely to the community. And honestly, that aspect of Battlebit has been a significant one and a massive positive for me. So I'll end it there. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know what you think about Battlebit, especially if you've been playing it recently. And remember, if you liked the video, to leave a like. And if you did like the video, also think about subscribing. Cheers, guys.